and I thought Boys Don't Cry was tragic. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be another classic movie for you guys, and this movie I'm going to be reviewing is just, wow. If I had to make a list of movies that I've wanted to see for the longest time, this movie would be very, very high up there. Finally, I have seen it, and thank God that I finally have seen it. I'm so happy I did. And that is the 2000 psychological drama classic, Requiem for a Dream. Yes, finally I've seen Requiem for a Dream. I've wanted to see this movie for so long, ever since I heard about what it's about and things like that. I'm just like, I need to check out this movie. I rented it from my library. I really wanted to get it on Amazon. I just didn't have enough money, so I had to rent it from my library, and this movie, after watching Requiem for a Dream is not only the saddest movie I think I've ever seen in my life, not the most tragic movie I've ever seen in my life, it is one of the best movies of all time. It's also the best classic movie I have watched so far. Yes, this is better than Boogie Nights in my opinion, and I'm going to talk about why. This is better than Boogie Nights by a long shot, and there are so many reasons why I love this movie as much as I do, and it's a movie that, right off the bat, this is not a movie for the faint of heart, okay? If you get sensitive, don't even touch this movie, okay? If you cry during movies, and, you know, you cry on a regular basis while watching movies, don't even touch this movie, okay? You are going to be traumatized if you watch this movie, and you get very sensitive. You'll probably be traumatized either way, but let's get to the plot of Requiem for a Dream, which is so unique. Many people could say the movie's about different forms of addiction, but I personally feel it's about the daily lives of these four individuals, their hopes, wants, and dreams, and basically what they want to do to, what they have to do in order to, basically make these dreams happen. Now, we're going to get to our four stories here. We first have this character of Sarah Goldfarb. She is this elderly widow who she constantly watches TV. The only thing that makes her happy is watching these infomercials on TV, and it's hosted by this guy, Tappy Tibbins, and she wants to, win the grand prize and everything, and after she receives a sketchy phone call that she's going to be invited to participate on this television game show, she becomes obsessed with wanting, she wants to get the same young appearance that she used to have, and she wants to do whatever she can to look young again. So she realizes that she can't fit in this red dress anymore that she wore at her son's graduation, so she basically does whatever she can. She goes on this crash diet, and she starts taking amphetamine pills, basically, that are prescribed to her, that are basically weight loss pills, and she basically ends up getting addicted to them, and that basically is her plot. Meanwhile, you have her son, Harry, who he has a very promising life. He really wants to do something with his life, but in order to do that, him, his girlfriend, Marion, and his best friend, Tyrone, are all heroin addicts, and they want to do whatever they can to provide themselves, even, whatever it costs, so he can make a life for him and Marion, and they can, get together and start a life together and things like that. While Marion has to, get herself involved in these really sexual acts, and Tyrone finds himself involved with the law, and basically just that it follows their daily lives of them doing these drugs and why they do them, and eventually their tragic, and I mean tragic, downfall. And that basically is the plot of Requiem for a Dream. There are so many things I love about this movie, and I'll talk about why. Let's first get to the acting in this movie, which, I need to, applaud the people in this movie, because the fact that this movie didn't get any nominations at Academy Awards except for one appalls me. Every single person in this cast should have been nominated. Now I'm going to tell you guys why. These people in this cast, they're not just cast. You don't see them as characters. And I'll talk about this, but let's first get to the acting here. Ellen Bernstein as Sarah Goldfarb, to say she gave an amazing performance is an understatement. She gave what might be the best actress, one of the best performances ever, honestly. She might give one of the best performances ever, and that's because of how well you connect with her character. You understand why she's doing what she's doing, why she's taking these pills, and, why this is, excuse me guys, why this is, affecting her as much as it is, and you understand, she wants to look young again. She wants to retain that look, and she has to lose weight, and she knows what that has to do, and she starts to get addicted. And there's this great scene, basically, where she starts to feel happy about it, and she thinks that maybe this is going to change her life and make it better and get her back on track to what she should be. And she doesn't really realize the real consequences that these drugs are doing to her. And I thought she did an amazing job portraying that, and especially toward the end of this movie, I mean, her scenes, she had scenes, they made me cry. Not tear up, cry. And I'm going to talk about this, but she was just incredible in this movie. Jared Leto as well, his character Harry, he understands that he's doing something wrong, but he knows that he has to do this in order to provide a life for him and his girlfriend. And you really care about his character, you can connect with his character very well, because everyone knows someone who's just trying to make a life for themselves, and you just see what they have to do. He doesn't really see anything wrong with what he's doing. He knows what he's doing is wrong, but he doesn't see anything wrong with doing that to get to where he wants to be. And Jennifer Connelly as well is incredible in this movie as his girlfriend that just doesn't want to leave him, and she just loves him so much and things like that. And their chemistry was just incredible in this movie. And then you have Marlon Wayans as Tyrone, who is another amazing character. This is probably the only performance I've seen from Marlon Wayans that is amazing. Most of his performances, we don't associate Marlon Wayans with amazing. We associate him with parody movie this, parody movie that. This is Marlon Wayans' best performance. I mean, everyone for that matter. Ellen Bernstein's best performance. I don't know so much about Jared Leto because I haven't seen him in Dallas Buyers Club. I heard that was his best performance. But here, Marlon Wayans, just, oh my god, his character's amazing because he's not just doing this to help out his friends, but he's also doing it because it's a way for him to grieve over his father's death, and it's amazing to watch, and I thought he did an incredible job with that as well. Christopher McDonald as Tappy Tibbins, you could say is kind of like the villain of the film because he's kind of the thing that makes Sarah go through all this, and I thought his character was definitely very interesting with that, and I really liked that. Everyone was amazing in this movie. Everyone gives an amazing performance. Everyone we see in this movie is amazing. There's not one person I thought did badly, and everyone was incredible. Really, they were. The directing by Darren Aronofsky. This is why I love the movie as much as I do, because this is not a movie. This is an experience. You're watching these characters' day-to-day lives, and the way that Darren Aronofsky did this was perfect. In any other movie, and I really want to get into more of the characters and why I love this movie as much as I do, because in any other movie, they would portray drug dealers as these horrible, not just drug dealers, but people that do drugs. They would portray them as these horrible, horrible people that are evil, they're abusive, they do these horrible things, but that's not really how they are. The way they portray them in this movie just shows that this can happen to anyone. Sarah Goldfarb is a very innocent woman. She did nothing wrong. She didn't even think she was doing anything wrong, but she just got addicted to these pills, and it's incredible to watch because you see her go from this really happy woman to eventually batshit crazy, and just the way they do that is amazing. And there are some parts in this movie that are very hard to watch. I will get into that. But just the way Aronofsky directed it was just to perfection, really, he did. Because the movie, in many ways, is a character study. You're seeing the characters' lives. And something I love is that the movie doesn't actually get that bad till like an hour in. For the first, I'd say, hour is just learning these characters' lives and seeing them do these drugs. They don't think it's really that big of a deal. Like, you just see them, they take the drugs, and that's how it goes. They don't really see it as a huge deal. And the way they portrayed that in this movie was absolutely fucking fantastic. I love the way they portrayed in this movie. It was just perfect. This eye is actually very important in this movie, and I'll talk about that in the cinematography. The screenplay, though, is just so raw and real and emotional. Honestly, the fact that this movie didn't get a Best Picture nomination just appalls me. How did this thing not get a Best Picture nomination? This movie makes you never ever want to take drugs. You don't see these people as characters. Again, you see them as everyday people, and you start to connect with them in a way that I don't think I've connected with someone in a movie in a while, because I didn't see these people as just people I'm watching in a movie. I saw them as real people who you really do want to help, and you start to think, oh my god, I really want to help this person, or oh my god, I really want to tell them not to do this, and you see these things they're doing. You eventually realize you're watching these characters very slowly destroy their lives, and it's so tragic to see, but again, they don't think they're doing anything wrong till this horrible shit starts happening to them, and the way they handled it in the movie, I just thought was perfect. They could have handled it in a very over-the-top, intense way, but it's such a subtle way, and it takes a very long time for them to realize they're doing anything wrong, and when they do, it's just too late, and the way they do that is just absolutely fantastic. I love the way they handled it in this movie, and I couldn't have asked for them to have handled it better. Honestly, the screenplay is just so real and raw and emotional, and one of my favorite scenes is basically Jared Leto, Harry's talking to his mom, and he's telling her that he doesn't want her to take these drugs, and that, he knows that he's doing something wrong, doesn't want the same thing to happen to her, but she doesn't see anything wrong with it. She sees this as going to help her out, and it's going to make her life better, and it's just this really great scene, because again, these people aren't bad people. They're just real people who have gotten into drugs, and these are the paths their lives have taken, and there's no turning back, and they don't realize that. There's really no turning back for them, honestly. These bad decisions they made, they can't look back, and that's something I thought was an amazing message of this movie, is that once you take drugs, you can't look back. That is your life. You've taken a drug, you become addicted, boom, you're addicted. You can't get away from that, honestly. That's what basically has to happen to every single character in this movie, and the way they did that, I just thought was absolutely incredible. It is a movie where I never, ever want to see anyone take drugs. I never want to see drugs. I can't even look at drugs the same way again because of this movie. I can't. I honestly can't, and that really comes to my main point in the movie, is that I don't think the movie's just about addiction. It's about the character's wants and needs, because as I said, every character has a reason for doing these drugs, and it makes you care about the characters so much more, and the way they did that was so well done, because they could have done it in a much more gruesome manner, but they do it in such a subtle way that that's why you care about the characters as much as you do, and I think that was amazing the way they handled that. The cinematography in this movie, this is some of the most just beautiful, disgusting, grotesque cinematography ever. Some of the best I have ever seen. I mean, it's such a weird style as well. I mean, this is a movie where there's a jump scare where her refrigerator starts talking to her, and it's probably one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my life. Also, screenplay, I forgot to say this. There were scenes in this movie, yes, they are very hard to watch, scenes that I started crying, not tearing up, crying. Yes, full on, like, I was crying. I felt bad for these people, because, again, you don't see them as people, you see them as characters that are going through this, and you want to actually help them, and you start to think of them as maybe your friends or things like that. The way they did that, I thought, was amazing, the way they handled it, and the cinematography is just so well done. I mean, there are so many shots of them just taking these drugs very quickly, and they see nothing wrong with it, and this eye is actually very important, because it's the eye of Jared Leto's character when he takes the drugs, and you see what it's doing to him, and basically the progression of what's happening to him, and the way they handled that, I thought was perfect in the movie. Just the way they did that, I love. This is a very visual movie, definitely. It's a very visual movie. There aren't many movies that I think are as visual as this one is. It's a movie that just, you have to pay attention to it, definitely. You have to focus on it, and again, the last 20 minutes are just holy shit. I mean, they were insane, and that's because of the cinematography, and it's because of how well it was done. And the way Darren Aronofsky just made this so much more psychological was just perfect, the way he handled it. And it is truly, truly brutal what ends up happening to all these characters, and I think the way he handled it was just perfect. The score as well is one of the best scores I think I've ever heard. Just the dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, like that score goes with the darkness and overall just, really brutal tone these characters have had their lives. I mean, that's really what it's showing. It's showing how dark their lives are, how gritty their lives are, how, bad their lives are, and it's so well done the way they handled that score. There's not one point in the movie where there's any bit of hope for these characters, really. In the beginning of the movie, there's no way they're going to come out of this. You know that, and the way they handled it, I thought, was perfect. The editing, this movie's a very cool editing style as well, because they show throughout the months how this affects them. They start in spring and go all the way, I believe they start in summer and go all the way to winter, and the way they handled that was perfect. I think they handled that in the best way they could, and I couldn't have asked for a better way for them to handle that. Honestly, it was the best way for them to handle this movie, was to start it in the beginning of, them taking these drugs, and then eventually what ends up happening to them. It made the movie so much more effective, and the way they did that was great. The only thing I can't stand about this movie is that it didn't get as many awards as it should have. This movie should have gotten so many more awards. I mean, The only thing it got was Ellen Bernstein was nominated for Best Actress. She should have won it all the way. I don't care how good Julia Roberts was and Aaron Brockovich. I frankly don't give two shits how good she was. I don't. Ellen Bernstein gives one of the best performances I've ever seen because she's a woman that's completely innocent, and then she just starts to go through this addiction, and she eventually, it ends up destroying her, and the way they did that, I thought, was amazing, and I love that, and Jared Leto should have been nominated, Jennifer Connelly should have been nominated, Marlon Wayans especially should have been nominated. By the way, this is the director's cut. I recommend you check it out. It's more brutal. It shows it's worser than the only difference with this is that basically when the movie came out, it was supposed to be NC-17. So the way they changed it was to get rid of a lot of the really, gross out, brutal scenes and edit it to R. Personally, I feel this is an even better cut because it really shows how realistic and brutal their lives have become. It's really not that much of a difference. Like, there are some scenes that are very different, but they're not really that different. They change, like, one or two things, but the movie still has the same impact on you no matter what. If I had to say, though, I would definitely say watch the director's cut of this movie, which is basically just the unedited cut. There's really no difference with it at all. But now I need to, like, honestly, guys, I have to talk about spoilers of this movie. I have to. I need to talk about why I love this movie as much as I did. Because without the last 20 minutes, that is what made me, well, it wasn't just the last 20 minutes. I was loving the movie even more, but the last 20 minutes made me realize this is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life, honestly. It's the best classic movie I watched so far. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Go watch Requiem for a Dream. But again, don't watch it for the faint of heart. It is not something that everyone is going to want to watch. It's something that I think is, you have to be a very different, you have to be a very specific kind of person. You have to be someone who can handle watching this kind of stuff. You have to be someone who can handle watching characters meet their brutal end. I mean, you have to be someone like that. And if you're not like that, just don't watch this movie. Seriously, don't watch this movie if you're not like that. Most times I'd say, yeah, watch it right now. But if you're very sensitive, you're not gonna want to watch this movie. It's gonna make you cry. It's gonna make you feel upset. You're not gonna want to watch this movie. You could do anything else with your time. Just don't watch this movie because it's gonna make you really uncomfortable. However, if you can watch movies like that, go watch this damn thing right now. Seriously. This thing is amazing. This is an amazing movie. It's a movie that is not just a movie, it's an experience, as I said, and it's something that needs to be watched by everyone. If they can handle it, at least, everyone needs to watch it at some point in their life. As long as you're not sensitive, you need to watch this movie. Honestly, you do, and I think that is what is perfect to this movie, honestly, and I absolutely love that, and just the way the movie portrayed these characters as real people, and the other thing is, you start to see these characters, and now we're going to get into spoilers, because I really want to talk about why I connected with this movie as well as I did. So, I would say the movie didn't get that bad for me until Sarah had that whole jump scare with her, seeing her refrigerator basically talking to her. That, to me, was showing that this was her just needing the drugs and her realizing that she's addicted and she needs these drugs and there's nothing she can do about it. And it makes her go crazy, obviously. And that scene, of course, where she runs out and she has to be sent to a mental institution. It's really hard stuff to watch because then she's forced to eat because she's gone this crash diet and she's lost tons of weight and she's very close to dying and you don't know if she's going to die or not. And scenes like this is when you start to see these people as if they were your friends and family, honestly. At this point, I didn't see them as movie characters. I saw them as, what if this was my family? What if this was my life? What if these were my friends? How would I react to that, honestly? What, Harry goes through with him having that terrible arm wound and him having to get it cut off is just so hard to watch. And then seeing Marion with these very, very disgusting sexual acts that she has to do just to get some drugs. It's just so tragic. And then, of course, you see Tyrone, who, just the worst thing, he's going through probably the least worst out of all of them. He's still going through a terrible thing, he has to do this really hard labor, and it's something that he never wanted to do, but again, it's because of the drugs, and every single thing that happens to them in the movie is because of the drugs, and the movie basically tells you that there is no more hope for these characters. They're wounded. They've destroyed their lives. They can't go back now. It's very real. It's very raw, emotional. It's all tragic, and That really is why the movie is as good as it is, because of the ending. And then when, when Sarah had that dream, well, that's why she did this, the whole time. That's why the movie's called Requiem for a Dream, because Sarah had a dream that she wanted this to happen to her. She wanted to win that grand prize, and she wants her son to live a happy life and be well dressed and have, he and Marion be engaged. She wants that to happen to him, but she knows that it can't. She wishes this happened, and now she's just to the point now where she's crazy. There's no hope for her. She's not normal anymore. She's not the same woman she used to be. In fact, she can't even talk now. She's all catatonic, and it's so sad. And just seeing her friends, you just picture your friends in that situation, and the way they did that, I thought was perfect in this movie. Perfectly handled. I couldn't have asked for a better ending, and just, it's so tragic, but it's so realistic. There's a reason, guys, why there aren't any other drug movies besides Requiem for a Dream. If there are, they were on the Lifetime channel. Yeah, there are movies that, deal with drugs, but there are no movies that tell you really what's going to happen to you if you do drugs. Please, guys, if you know someone that does drugs, tell them to watch this movie. They will never want to do drugs again. This is a perfect, like, anti-drug movie, honestly. You can't ever show this in, what sucks is that they can't show this in schools, honestly. Because if they show this in schools, they'd obviously be sued because of, like, all the things that, like, Marion has to go through and all the violent scenes and things like that. You just can't show that kind of stuff in this movie. You can't show that in schools, so unfortunately I can't do that. But if you know someone that's going through drugs, you need to tell them to watch this movie, seriously. Tell them to watch this movie. It's just everything that you want in a perfect movie. It's real, it's raw, it's emotional. And again, it's not just about addiction. It's about the wants, the hopes, the needs, the dreams, the overall goals of all these characters, what they want in life, and how, they only feel the way to do this is to do drugs. They don't really see anything wrong with it, and they basically are forced to do these drugs, and there's nothing they can really do about it, and it really sucks that happened to them, but that's their life. They can't get out of it, and I think the way they handled that in the movie is perfect. Requiem for a Dream is absolutely a modern-day masterpiece. Obviously, 5 out of 5 or an A+. It's the best classic movie I've seen. It's one of the best movies I've seen, and I can't look at drugs the same way again after watching this movie, and I never want to see another movie portray drugs because of the way, portray drug addiction because of how well this one did. And if you're looking for a movie that portrays drug addiction very realistically, this is the movie for you. Watch it. It's amazing. It really doesn't get better than Requiem for a Dream. But that's basically my review, Requiem for a Dream. I know this was a very long review. I had so much to say about this movie. This movie had such a big impact on me. And honestly, guys, to be honest, this was me after the movie. Like, I was crying, and I was like, I went in, like, shock. I was basically Sarah after this movie. Honestly, I was, like, so, like, in shock. I didn't know how to describe this movie, and it's because of how effective this movie is. It's probably the saddest movie you're ever gonna watch, honestly. You think Boys Don't Cry is sad? Watch this movie. It does not get worse than Requiem for a Dream. Honestly, it doesn't, and it just, it portrays these characters as real people. It doesn't show them as bad people. It shows why they're doing what they're doing. It makes you connect with them well. It doesn't make you think them as movie characters. It's an experience. It's this movie that doesn't, stop making it makes it worse and worse for them as it goes on, and it doesn't get worse than what ends up happening to them at the end of this movie. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie. You have seen it. Please see this movie. Again, if you're sensitive, I can understand. You don't have to see this movie if you're sensitive, honestly. If you're very sensitive, don't watch this movie. As I said, I know I can't help but stress that. Just don't watch it if you're sensitive. If you're not, though, you need to check out this movie because it's an amazing movie. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. It's terrifying. It's emotional. It's raw. It takes you on this journey with these characters. It's this incredible character piece as much as it is this psychological drama. It's as much of a cautionary tale as much as it is this tragic, movie as well. It's basically what the Lifetime movies don't tell you, honestly, guys. That's why Lifetime movies suck nowadays, because they're not to the quality of Requiem for a Dream. They're just not. But that's basically my review of Requiem for a Dream. Hope you guys enjoy it. I really don't know what else to say about this movie, guys. I think I've said enough. That's basically my review, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for my review either of a classic movie review or for tonight's episode of Mr. Robot, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.